Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 7. Module 7, we are moving on to the next type of literature that we'll cover in this class, and that is poetry. Poetry is much different from reading short stories, and so you're going to be getting a lot of introductory information here in this module, and then starting to explore some of the poems that we will look at in the class. So you can see that you've got two assignments here. The first is the quiz, which is over the introductory information and then the first couple of chapters about poetry, and then you have a discussion board to complete as well. So in the textbook, you can see over here I've got my table of contents sticking out here, and so then the sections, part 1 is about just literature in general, and then we went to part 2 fiction, so we already did that. Part 3 is poetry, and this is what we're going to be covering for the next couple of weeks, and there's a lot of information about poetry. Some of it you'll notice really ties back to what we've already discussed. So there will be a chapter on imagery, which is going to be very similar to how imagery works in fiction and that kind of thing. So origins of poetry and just looking at different information about poetry in general, getting a lot of that terminology. There are more terms when discussing poetry. There's a lot more poetry out there. It is an older genre of writing, just because we have poetry has a lot of ties to songs and music, and so we've had songs and music, that oral history, for a very, very long time, and then written versions of it as at a later point. So we got a lot of stuff we can talk about for poems. It is different to read poems. So when you go through these textbook chapters, it's a little bit of a challenge. So each chapter, so we'll look at understanding poetry, has some examples in it. And so as you're going through, I want you to read the examples that are provided. It's not like the fiction chapter where, there was a bunch of examples at the end. In this case, I want you to read through it and then read. So this one has Gretel in Darkness. It has this example that's in the chapter. So just go ahead and read everything that's listed in the chapter. It's going to be a lot more poems than what you got in the previous chapters that you've read. So we had fewer short stories that were required readings, and so that's a little bit more of a challenge. Some poems are not very easy to get into, and so I do recommend, if you can, find like an audio version of somebody else reading that poem. Some of these poems are fairly famous, like My Last Duchess, Robert Browning's poem is pretty famous, and you can find some audio versions just listening to it. It's much easier, I think, if you just follow along with the poem as you listen to it. And sometimes I will include some links to things. In this case, the video that I've chosen for this section is just more of the overview of why is poetry so important, what does it mean to have access to poetry, and how can we understand, just life in general, but also history, culture, that kind of thing through poetry. So just keep that in mind. Those are the readings, and the poems in there, you're going to be doing all of those readings. It is a lot more, but the poems obviously are much shorter than a short story. So once you're done with that, take the quiz, and then you have a topics discussion board just to give us, again, more of that overview introductory stuff. So for this discussion board, everybody's going to pick a topic. These are the topics you can choose from, and they are all just information about poetry, different types of poems, different terms that we can use to discuss poems, different poets, different eras for poetry. There are 28 options, and there's not that many of you in this class. So there's a lot of options for what to choose. Nobody can choose the same topic though. So if you see a topic that you really want to do, like you really want to do hip hop or something, hit reply and make sure that you do, put that in there, hip hop and hip hop and rap. And then, reply, and then that way you have saved that topic. Nobody else can pick that topic. So make sure you are scrolling through and see what everybody else has chosen before you pick your topic. And then once you're ready to finish your post, you can go in here and you can edit it and add in your sources. So the sources, 2 sources, you start off with 2 sources about your topic, and they can really be any sources. They can be examples, they can be just information. There's all kinds of stuff that you could include, and then you just give us the information for the source, and then a short paragraph describing it or explaining it. And it's all in your own words. I don't want you using AI for any of this. This is just stuff that I want to see. What do you find? What are you interested in? That kind of thing. And then you're going to respond to your peers. You could respond to 2 peers, and you're going to, again, 2 sources, but they need to be different from what's already been posted about that topic. So if somebody else did, Emily Dickinson, then you have to find 2 new sources about Emily Dickinson that the other people either commenting or the original poster did not write about her. So just kind of keep that in mind. Basically, the goal here is to have just a whole discussion board that's full of sources, just about information about all of these topics that you can use as a resource. If you want to go back through and you want to learn a little bit more about one of these things, you could go through and see all of these sources. So that's kind of the goal there. So just keep that in mind. It shouldn't take you too long to do the discussion board itself, but it is, waiting till people respond and choosing sources and that kind of thing will take a little bit longer just because it's collaborative. If you have questions as you go through the module, make sure that you send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.